Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special audio-only Torch Snuffers. I'm your host, Colin Connors. We have a giant panel today, so I'm going to breeze through it real quick. Joining us today is the super amazing Stephen Lehman,
Hi.
the always beautiful Prince Ty,
Good evening.
Survivor superfan Alex Cash,
Hey!
that girl from Canada, Elise Anderson,
Hello.
from Survivor Cook Islands, the amazing Billy Garcia.
Hey, everybody.
All right, and let's just take a moment to welcome our very special guest from Survivor Token Sheens, from Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, and from Survivor South Pacific, the one, the only Coach. Woo!
Yay.
Hey guys.
So, oh my goodness, we have so much to cover. It was an amazing double boot episode. Coach, I just want to get your initial reaction to that, and who are you seeing good gameplay from?
Yeah, it's interesting because I felt like this season started out really slow, and I wasn't a great fan. I mean, a bad season of Survivor is better than 90% of the other TV out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy with the season. I was kind of watching it, and then, the last 3 or 4 episodes, things have really kind of turned up. I'm amazed how David continues to swing people his way. It's interesting to see. I knew that Will's time was coming. Adam seems like everybody's coming to him. He's smack dab in the middle, and he's not alienating anybody at the same time. And that's obviously the trick. When you're in the middle, usually you last one vote or one more vote. And the fact that he's lasted, 4 or 5 votes, being in the middle is very impressive to me.
Oh, and especially with how much heat has been thrown on him throughout being in the middle. Because, I mean, you said you knew Will's time was up. That's because Will was playing the middle ground. He played it horribly bad and got the boot. So what do you think separates someone like Adam playing the middle with someone like Will playing the middle? Is there any tangible thing you think that separates the two styles of gameplay or the two players?
I mean, first of all, believability is huge out there. If you have people believe in you and feel that you're creditable, I think that that's a big thing. I also think that once you start really kind of revealing your end game, it's disastrous. And I think that, you can think, or you can say to one person who's your closest ally, hey, I'm trying to make big moves because I haven't made big moves. I'm trying to, increase my resume. But once you say that to everybody, it puts a huge target on your back. And I know that Adam has said that to the camera. See, when you're watching at home, there's two totally different things. The first season that I played, everybody was like, we didn't really think that you were crazy, for the first 25 days because all that I was very normal around camp. But then when I was talking in my confessionals, I really started jacking things up. And so Adam is jacking up his confessionals, but then to everybody else, he's been pretty calm and pretty mellow and pretty decent. When Will's like, hey, I'm going to take over this game. I'm going to take control of this game. That's a huge red flag for people that you're playing with.
Well, do you think Will being young has anything to do with it in terms of how people perceive him? Do you think people would go, oh, you're young, so I'm automatically going to have a red flag when talking to you? Or is that just me assuming ageism?
No, I mean, I think actually I'm not meaning to sound funny, but I think that the fact that he has a deep voice really makes people think that he's older than he is. And I think as he bandies about saying, hey, I'm the youngest guy out here, I think people are then reminded of that. I really don't think that has anything to do with it because he doesn't act, Zeke at times acts more immature than him. So, I don't think that really people that think that people put that into as a factor.
Yeah. So I have to ask you this question. The big thing at the beginning of this episode was everyone talking about resume building. And yet, we had a winner like last season, Michelle. We had a winner with you like Sophie, who never really did any tangible big moves. So what do you think has changed in the game of Survivor to where everyone has to make a big moves, or is that just everyone blowing smoke up their butts?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I notice, I'm always putting stuff in my memory bank, and it's interesting that you said that because I was sitting there thinking tonight, if I played again, would I want to be a resume builder or would I take a different tack? So I was kind of thinking along that angle. When I think so, when we had when everybody came back and there was a Survivor Second Chance and everybody was voted back on, and it was a great season, one of the best seasons, one of my favorite seasons. And so when you had that level of gameplay and just started talking about it, I think it really caught on. Anytime somebody says something out there and I said honor and integrity, it like caught on when, Russell started finding the idols without clues, that caught on. So it's easy to catch on to things out there. I noticed when Jeff said today, when you guys are playing at this high of a gamesmanship or level of play, and when he said that, it kind of rang false a little bit to me. I think that they're playing really well for their first time. But if you think about it, voting out Sunday, that's a really poor level of play.
Mm-hmm.
That's a complete goat. That's an Edna and whoever else that you want to say that, you can just drag along to the end. And for me, there was no fun in that. But for other people, as far as good gameplay, I think that was a very bad move. So I think that the gameplay is hot and cold. Sometimes it's really, really good. Sometimes it's not so good. But I think that Jeff is saying that because, he always wants there to be a better season. That season's going to be good. And so I think that that's a little bit part of it.
So you think
the bar was set so high in Survivor Second Chances that now they want that level of gameplay each time, even if they have to manufacture a little bit of it.
So it's kind of like if you tell a group of kids that they're really smart, they'll assume they're smart and start acting smart, where if you tell a group of kids that they're dumb, they'll act dumb.
And when you're a coach and you say, we're going to win championships every single year, people start believing in it.
So I guess my next question would be, when it comes to sorry, I'm trying to figure out the first part of the thing. When it comes to the analysis that the earlier players were giving that David and Jay were the biggest threats to winning the game, why couldn't Brett, Sunday, Adam pool anything together to actually get that going? Because I remember in your season, Token Scenes, once it became clear that JT and Steven had a clear shot of winning, especially after Tyson got booted, you were trying to rally the troops against them, like, hey, this is the clear threat. What do you think it is about the game of Survivor that makes it so much harder for people to rally around the clear threat? Or am I just speculating, like, a TV version of it?
No, I think that's a really good question and a really good observation. The best that I can say, there's a psychological term. It escapes my memory, but if you think that somebody is a complete wanker and they turn out not to be, you actually like them more than if they were not a wanker in the beginning, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there's a psychological term for it, that if you don't like somebody, but it turns out you're wrong and you do like them, then the bond is even stronger. And so I think that that's factoring into it a little bit. I'm just amazed that David can run and do challenges and actually be a threat in these individual immunity challenges, because he was a complete waste of space in the beginning. He was afraid of his own shadow. The transformation of his persona and who he is, even going down to the challenges, day-to-day life. You go back and look at some of those earlier episodes, and it was incredible how afraid he was just of camp life, much less challenges and gameplay. And so I think that because people looked at him as a lesser individual in the beginning, the bond with them was stronger. And you can see that. He's got some real strong bonds. You look at Ken, and his bond is legit. They are friends. They have been stalwart, with each other the whole time. Hannah and him have a very real relationship. And so I think that he has been able to build stronger, real relationships and not just phony alliances. And that was, that's one thing that a lot of us try to do out there. I'd say the majority, 75%, don't want to have anything to do with that, and they just make alliances and they just want to get to the end. But there are some of us, 25% that want to make real relationships out there, and those relationships sometimes, help us and get us to the end.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because you saw people go to rocks for David. And in South Pacific, they were ready to go to rocks for you and your alliance, where David was the centerpiece of this alliance and you were the centerpiece of the Apollo alliance. What is that factor? Is there any kind of 1 minute tangible explanation you can give for how you can connect with someone on Survivor to the point where they're willing to go to rocks for you, like a surface alliance versus a true friendship? What did you do to get people to have that much faith in you to where they're willing to draw rocks? And is David doing the same?
He's got to be doing some of it. There's a continual check and balance and gauging the temperature of the people that are around you. And I can only speak for myself, and my wife says it all the time. She says, what you did on South Pacific to take an original 5 in the beginning and nobody stabbed anybody in the back, and you took it all the way to the end. And that was a lot of coaching, and that was a lot of checks and balances within our group. I said, don't go outside. Trust me. When somebody would start talking to somebody else, I'd immediately call them aside and say, listen, man, you know what we talked about. If you go against the alliance, if there's even one vote astray against any of our 5, you're going home. It's what Tyson did the season that he won, because he was like the same kind of thing, almost like the Gestapo saying, if you go against La Familia, it's muerte immediately for you. So, I mean, I don't think David's doing that. But there is something where every day you're doing real relationships. There's a lot of talk about, hey, when we get back home, let's hang out, let's meet, let's do this together. So there's a lot of that going on out there. And I would say that David, and also maybe, I got to say this, I don't want to take anything away from David, but he is some type of producer, music writer for Hollywood. And when you first go out on Survivor, you are convinced that you're going to get an agent, film movies, do other shows. And there's like less than, 2% of people that go on Survivor that actually get those opportunities. So maybe they think that he's got an in for them to have other opportunities. I don't know. I mean, I'm taken away from him by saying that, but you never know. You can use every little tiny angle when you're out there to sway people to be loyal to you.
That's a very good point, and I do want to let you know we are going to talk about your movie as we start to wrap things up towards the end, because I think a lot of people want to hear about that. So I am going to jump real quick to Billy, because we haven't heard from you tonight. So Adam, once again, was seen tonight playing this really strong, aggressive game. Who do you think is his finals 3? Because we haven't seen him articulate that. We've seen Adam articulate a lot of strategy, but we haven't seen him articulate his endgame, kind of like what Coach said. What is Adam's path to victory, Billy? And who can he beat anybody in the final?
Well, Hannah just made a big move. So up until that big move at the end, I think he was looking at sitting next to Hannah, and his third part was, I think, up in the air. He hadn't decided who number 3 would be, but I think he was looking at Hannah and as his definite number 2. And now she sort of took the bull by the horn, and she's made a move to build a little bit of a resume here. So now I can't really say for sure that taking Hannah is a guaranteed win anymore.
Well, and as everyone knows, I've had a giant crush on Hannah this whole season. So Ty, does Hannah have a shot of winning now from tonight's episode? Because she was given a crisis of conscience early on in the first part of the episode, and then the second part of the episode, she was shown to be, manipulating the fact that Sunday was getting booted. Or am I just projecting because I'm madly in love with Hannah?
I say that if she's in the end with Ken, who we've been shown is like a nice guy but not super playing the game in the sense that, like, I don't think he's going to get credit, and Adam, who has a tendency to put his foot in his mouth when he's like trying to make personal connections and then ends up just kind of being like a braggy douche sometimes, I think she could possibly win in that situation. Although I would still probably head towards Adam based on the edit of his, where we're getting, he's doing this for sick mom. They keep beating us over the head with that. If he has a chance, it's because they keep pointing that out to us episode after episode after episode. But there's a chance your girl could win, possibly.
Well, thank you.
She will sweep you off your feet and carry you
exactly,
off.
and we'll live happily ever after. That's my that's my end game, Coach. As I'm asking about end games, but I did want to ask you, what would you think, Coach, of a player like Ken? And because on the surface, I would assume you two would align and work really well together. But what do you think? Like, you know yourself obviously better than we know you from TV. Would you want to work with someone like Ken? Because he does seem to put honor and integrity, but his gameplay has been a little less than, stellar.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say that I would play with somebody like that for sure. He's been consistent. And when you have somebody that's out there that you know is going to be loyal, that's worth more than anything. Whether they're good in challenges, whether they're good gameplay, it doesn't matter. When you have one person that's going to be rock solid, you take that person and you ride all the way to the finals.
Okay, and I want to throw something to Alex real quick because we haven't really had a chance to talk. So the big thing of the first part of the episode was the decision to keep Will over David. Now, strategically, I would say David might be a bigger threat in the long run, but do you think everyone's decision was motivated by the fact that Will was seen as a loose cannon? Or what do you think made David's alliance just stay so stuck to him?
I don't really know about that question.
You can disagree with the question if you like.
Well, I don't know. Can you ask me a different question in a little bit? Because I don't know how to answer that.
That's fine. Does anyone understand the one okay? So it's gonna be Elise, and I'll jump to Ty real quick.
Okay, I wanted to say because the way that this season has panned out, where everyone's so disjointed, the fact that his alliance can trust David, like they've gone, like idled each other, like it's crazy the lengths that these people are willing to go for each other, and that's far more valuable right now with everything up in the air. So I think that's why, whereas Will was like clearly all over the place and he was thinking he's going to control everyone and flip back and forth, he's way more dangerous to them in particular than David is.
That's fair. And Ty, if you want to make a quick little point before I jump on to the next.
Basically, Elise nailed it on the head. David represents stability. Will was willing to sell out. Like, Jay was his best friend on the island, and he basically said, meh, and sold out that side last round. A person like that who will sell his friend down the river isn't somebody that you necessarily trust when he's barking orders all of a sudden. To that end, David represented a better option, I think. Even though I think it was a mistake because he's the much better player.
That's kind of what I was getting at. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, and it didn't help that Will was me, my game, my resume, me for a while now. So I don't think that helped.
Well, Coach, once again, we're going to go back to the South Pacific game you played because that was amazing and you kept that alliance together. How important is offering stability, and how do you build that stability? Is it through, like, talking about what we're going to do after the game? Is it through sleeping next to each other? Like when Cochran famously said, oh, where am I going to sleep tonight? Like, what is the little nuances that someone like me would want to incorporate if I were to try to, play your game?
That's actually a secret that I discovered before the last game, and I'm not going to reveal that. I don't mean to be coy, but I had the coach of the coach was talking to me before the game, and he was like, "Man, you're totally going about it all wrong, and you need to do something to be able to relate to people." And it was really eye-opening for me. So I changed it, but I think that it goes back to, I think it very simply is just to not pigeonhole people into, your mantra out there. And I know a lot of people thought I just all the time was bringing religion into South Pacific. They showed that a lot. That's great. That's a big part of who I am. But it was a small part about it. But you really have to just say, I'm out here, and I don't want the problem with my first time is I was like, man, this will change your life. Let it change your life. We're out here in the middle of nowhere. Stop talking about home. Embrace yourself. Forge your character, et cetera, because that was my journey. And making everybody else go on that journey was a huge mistake. So, I mean, you have to accept people who they are, and you have to be big-hearted. And it goes back to what I said before, you got to be believable, and you got to have credibility.
Right. So I'm just going to read a whole bunch of books about leaders and creativity, and hopefully that will help me out. I did want to ask you, Coach, famously, way back in Survivor Token Scenes, you made a comment when they were talking about throwing the bags of onto the the plate thingies that were falling down. So have you, from tonight's challenge, have you ever thrown the spinning disc? Because that was an extremely original challenge, and I was wondering how we would be able to, like, could I be good at it? And have you done something like that before? And do you think you would do good at that challenge?
That's funny. I totally, when I said that, it was really funny. It was actually what I was saying. I'd never actually done that, but I was actually thinking in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, I've done this because it's the same thing as slow pitch softball. That bean bag, whatever we were throwing, was about the same weight as a slow pitch softball. And I'm like, look, man, we're just hitting the little strike mat. And I pitched in slow pitch softball. Anyway, so no, I have never done anything out there like that. But if I were to come across that challenge, I'm sure that I would tell my teammates that I have one of those boards set up in my backyard and I practice on them.
Well, do you think that's a good strategy to kind of exude that amount of confidence? Do you think maybe it like intimidates other people?
I'll tell you what. I mean, all 3 times I went out there and I had a certain agenda every time. but above all, I didn't want my stuff to be on the cutting room floor. And there's winners in Survivor, and if you were to say, name me 30 winners and name me the top 10 players, you wouldn't be able to name the top. You wouldn't be able to name the 30 winners, but you would be able to name the top 10, and I'd be in that top 10. And so for me, there was something that superseded winning. I'm going to go out there and be 100% authentic. And, the producers saw that, and they said, we can push the envelopes of somebody that at times I can be eccentric. And so they pushed the envelopes, and then I pushed back, and then I blew open those walls, and I just said, wow, this is awesome. I mean, how many times can you go out here and create a fantasy world and a character and just be legit, but at the same time, push the borders of your mind? It was eye-opening, and it was amazingly fun. So is it the best thing to do? Of course it's not. I mean, look, the funniest thing about what the Survivor producers are so good at doing is whoever's on top, you want them gone. And 2 weeks later, that person's on the bottom, and you feel sorry for them. And 3 weeks later, they're arrogant again, and you're just like, I want to see this guy go. And so it's great for them because it's great fuel for hate and love back home when we're cheering for the contestants.
Well, and I mean, let's talk about heroes versus villains. You were kind of just coach, and then when you had that big moment where you were kind of like, where you were very cathartic, every single person in America felt for you. So it's something that's crazy. And when you were talking about your legacy, tonight's episode was called Slaying the Survivor Dragon. I don't know if you knew that, but that is how.
Yep.
Yeah, it was called Slaying this. Like that was the name of the episode.
Oh, I totally missed that. Crap! I'm gonna have to go watch it again and see what I see. So thank you for telling me that.
That's the thing.
I will go back and watch it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they actually utter that phrase, but that's what it's listed as in all the like TV guide stuff. So there is something to be said to having the legacy, especially when someone like you've had that growth through your 3 seasons, in which I thought you were going to win South Pacific, and I don't know if you're ever interested in playing again, but if you were to play it again, who knows how that would go.
Yeah, that's another topic. That's
another topic. Question. So I was going to throw another question at you. We were seeing this kid Jay, and he's coming across as like super authentic and super likable after being kind of a bonehead at the beginning of the season. For some reason, I'm drawing a lot of parallels between him and Ozzy. Am I completely wrong, or what do you make of Jay and Ozzy, and what do you make of that comparison? Is there any truth in that, or can you at least see where I'm kind of coming from?
Yeah, no, I can definitely see where you're coming from. When you're young and you win, you want to throw it in people's face. And I remember one time early in my coaching career, we won this game, and everybody ran out on the field, and I was running. I was like acting crazy, and it was not a championship. We did not win conference that game. It was just a regular game, and it's great to have passion like that. But I remember somebody said, you got to act like you've been there before. You got to act like you've actually won a game before you go out there and act like that. And it really spoke to me because, the older that you get, I think the more calm you're going to be, and you're not going to be such an ass when you win. The thing about Jay, the thing about Ozzy is when they compete, they're very raw. They put their emotions on their sleeve, and you can see that in the challenge when they win. They're arrogant about it, and they're like, yo, man, I got this, and da-da-da-da. And I think that turns the audience off at times, but I definitely see the similarities with Ozzy and him, for sure.
Well, and this is going to sound very rude, and I want to hear, Billy, if you have a comment about this, I would love to hear too. It just seems that Jay's is a little bit more likable, for lack of a better word, and I hate to use that because obviously when I talk to survivors in real life and I talk to them on Skype and all that stuff, it's much different than how the TV shows it. But Billy, do you think I'm right that Jay's just a little bit more human?
I think Ozzy had the better outdoor skills, and I even say the better challenge skills. But I think Jay has the better social skills in that he's a more personable person. He seems to be more approachable in the way that at least the way he looks in the edit, he seems to be more approachable. But I that's just 90% of survivors who you're surrounded by. So, Jay's got this love-hate relationship with Adam that seems to be the core of this season that we're watching. And this love-hate relationship is basically they both have mothers that have serious illnesses. And so I think that's adding to the likability of Jay as well. So how can how can you not feel bad for somebody whose mother is sick and is near death and
That's very understandable. So I'm going to throw this question to Coach, and then I am going to ask for everyone else to briefly comment on it. Coach, during the second immunity challenge, Adam was helping Ken by verbally saying, go get your ball now, all that stuff. This is a two-sided question. One, is that good gameplay for Adam? And two, should that even be allowed? Because I remember there was some controversy in Survivor Blood versus Water when I believe Aris and Vetus got eliminated because Tina was helping out other people. I might have that history a little off. But what do you make of that kind of dynamic? And would you do that?
I did it with Sophie. I mean, on that last challenge in South Pacific,
That's
I
true.
basically was like, I cannot frickin' do this puzzle. My mind went black, and I turned towards her. But at that point, it was like super desperate. The lines had already been drawn, and I just wanted her to win. So I think that later on, at the end, it's good. I thought at the same time, I was just like, why are you doing this with Ken? Nobody's going to vote him out. For you to draw the line in the sand towards Ken, he already had his vote. It wasn't like he was really pandering for his vote. I thought it was a little bit strange. I don't think it's great gameplay to do that because it completely bifurcates what you want to do, and it draws a line in the sand so much. I mean, really, if you look back on it now, it's like, wait a second, I thought he had an alliance with Sunday, et cetera, but obviously now you can see that might not have been as true as they wanted us to believe because he wasn't cheering for either of them. He was cheering for Ken.
But should production do something with this? Because to me, there has to be some middle ground where production says you can't help people in challenges. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just, what do you think, Coach? And I'm getting nods from everybody, and everyone is going to get a chance to comment on this. What do you think, Coach?
Well, I coach team sports, so cheering for me, cheering, I'm used to that. So I don't think so, man. I don't. If people all want to gang up, there was one challenge where we eliminated poor Edna, and we all literally just said, we're going to make this move here to eliminate her, and we were all in on it. I ended up winning immunity, but it was just out of luck. But I think that it is what it is. I think if people want to cheer for other people, they want to help other people, who cares? That doesn't bother me.
All right. So, Billy, real quick, it seems like you agree with Coach on just about all of that.
Yeah, I fell victim to something similar to that where my tribe threw a challenge and made sure that other tribes won. But if you take that away from the game and say no, then you take away you take away so much of the unpredictability and the drama and you basically box people into playing a very straightforward, very cardboard style game. You want people to be free enough to sort of step out of the box and do unorthodox moves. And sure, this was an unorthodox move where he was obviously cheering for Ken in front of everybody. And like Coach said, he outed himself, but his plan was to out the hidden immunity idol and make Jay feel like he had to play it. So I think he was rooting for Ken to keep the immunity necklace away from Jay, not so much for Ken to win.
So it was risk versus reward, and it looked like the reward paid off. And Ty, you wanted to comment real quick, and I'm going to hear everyone's quick comments on it.
I completely agree with Billy. I really didn't view it as him cheerleading for Ken so much as him wanting to make sure that the two targets that he had for the round, David and Jay, didn't have immunity. And he actually, in the next scene, was able to do a throwaway comment to Jay being like, yeah, David was right behind him. I wanted to make sure David didn't win so we could vote him out. So he basically did, I thought it was a little bit messy, and I think it could have bit him in the butt, but it didn't end up doing so. And, the ends justify the means out there. You got to do what you got to do.
And that's right. There was very good damage control on Adam's part for that. Alex, and then Elise, and then Steven real quick.
All right, two thoughts about that. One is that, I think you have to weigh the amount of damage that it could do to your game if you are going to openly take sides in a challenge. Because at this late stage in the game, at the final 7, pretty much everybody's cards are to some extent laid out on the table. But, let's say Michelle is happy that Figgy is still there. That's much earlier on. There's a lot more chance for that error to propagate. And the other thing I will say is that there is a defined limit as to how much you can help someone with their challenge, because Albert was not allowed to drop his stack.
All right. So do you have somewhat of an answer for that? Let's coach. Was there any talk when that was happening, when Sophie was telling Albert to pick up her pieces? Any behind the scenes info you can say about that?
No, it's pretty much what you saw. I mean, we were the three of us were in a very tight alliance, and so that she was just like, you could just see that was just the moment of the challenge and a little bit of exasperation, but nothing to really be read into that.
Yeah, so like production didn't say, "Oh, you can't do it." It was just like, "Okay, here's the rules. Don't cross it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, and then Elise, your thoughts, and then Steven real quick. Oh, but I can't hear her. Can you guys hear her?
You can't hear Elise.
No. Did you mute
Oh,
yourself?
We can't
sorry,
hear
sorry,
Elise.
I was on mute.
Okay, all right.
I wanted to say that I think this is a unique issue because it's a very different challenge that they had. It was a multitasking challenge where you had to be focusing on two things at once. And normally you're only doing one thing, so you're probably a lot more focused on just getting done what you have to do. I know we've seen sometimes people like copying each other's puzzles and things like that, but we haven't really seen anyone being like, oh yeah, behind you, by the way, you need to like grab this ball before it falls down. I don't really know what to think about it, because on one hand you don't want someone cheating, like everyone like, oh yeah, well, I'll help Coach win immunity by standing here not doing the puzzle and just telling him when to pick up his ball. But at the same time, I think it's fair since he's not like going over and grabbing it for him or helping him physically.
That's a very good point. Okay, Steven, real quick, and then I want to throw some stuff Coach's way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's completely fair game. I mean, to some degree, it's part social too, where in Adam's case, he had an objective, and his objective was to make sure Jay and David did not win immunity, and he did it. I mean, it's part social too, because you want to make sure that the people you want to win immunity get it, or in this case, the people you don't want don't get it. So, yeah, I think it's a perfectly valid thing.
So, Coach, on the kind of hindsight 2020, which is a lot of our focus, I actually strongly disagreed with their decision to not put enough votes on Jay to that force him to play the idol tonight. And I found that to be really weird. Like, Coach, what would you have put enough votes on Jay to where it forced him to play an idol? Don't you think that's extremely dangerous to risk something like that going through, someone like Jay having the idol? Or, I don't know, can you tell us more about the psychology of dealing with the idol play and the all-in votes or, splitting them and all that stuff? Because I was shocked they didn't put, 4 votes on Jay.
Yeah, that was interesting. It hurt their credibility, and I don't know if it has something to do with that talk that we saw about loving your mother. And maybe, Adam went back and he was like, hey, let's change things up a little bit and not do that in case he doesn't play his idol. I really don't know. I mean, I think it was really good editing. I think that the producers really did a good job of making us think that he was going to go. And obviously, he fueled into that paranoia as well. But, when there's an idol in play, it's really difficult because you're always trying to guess what other people are doing. And unfortunately, the normal rules of humanity and the normal rules of corporate relationship and coach and player relationships is thrown out the window when you're out there. There's no real set of ethics or set of rules or bylaws or whatever that you stick with. And so it's really tough to try to figure out what people are going to do. And you're always second guessing yourself. And if we split the votes and if somebody plays an idol, then who's going next? And it gets pretty hairy out there just because there's no code of conduct that you go by.
And that's very fair. And I mean, Billy, yeah, I can sit here all day and say they should have put all the votes on Jay, but the fact of the matter is what they did worked. So, like, should I not be armchair quarterbacking this move, or what's your interpretation of it? Like, was it worth the risk?
I think when they decided to go the way they did, it's because they were pretty certain that Jay was going to play the idol regardless. So I think remember that Survivor is normally edited down to 1 hour for a boot, but here we basically got a half hour per boot, and so we really didn't see the scope of how much Jay got worked into believing that it was going to be him tonight, and he better play the idol to stay. So we didn't get to see it like we would have in a normal episode. And I feel like that's the factor. That's what made him say, okay, we got him. He's going to play his idol. Now let's get rid of who we got to get rid of.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so Alex, you wanted to comment real quick.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario for them was like in order to maintain control for the vote, like on the one hand they want Jay to play his idol so that it's flushed and it's gone, but they don't want him to have the power to actually decide who goes home. They want to retain that power for themselves, and that necessitates not throwing their votes at someone who is going to have played his idol. So I think
that's very fair.
Yeah.
And that's
so I think it was based on assuming that he would play the idol. I agree.
And I mean, it seemed to work out. So, Coach, okay. So Coach has about 5 minutes, which it's understandable. It's getting late. So, Coach, I am going to rapid fire some questions at you. Okay?
Go for it.
Okay. So, the first one. Oh gosh, I don't know where to begin. Who's your winner pick right now?
Who's my pick to win?
Yep.
It's a hard one. I don't really know. I mean, they're setting Adam up for failure, I think. They keep talking about his mother, so he's the obvious guy to win. I would have said Zeke before he got voted out. I'm really bad at picking winners. I very rarely pick winners the right way. But let's just say... No, I mean, I think, David... I think David, man, if he gets to the end, obviously, I think he's going to win. So I'll pick David.
Okay. So, follow-up. Is there any update on the band Dragons from Heroes vs. Villains Ponderosa? When is their album coming out?
Yeah, can I tell you something about that? I'm going to give you a little inside scoop on that.
All right, so that's what we want.
People went crazy when that stuff was going on, and we were writing those songs. It was fun. I mean, I just did it for time, to kill time, but then it was something really big. So I got to tell you that they asked us to play a live concert in Times Square the day after the finale, and CBS shut it down because they were like, we don't want the Dragons to be too big, da-da-da. And so they actually put the kibosh on that. So I think we had a little chance to do something. The Dragons probably, it's funny, the guy that produced that, Norwood, he's the guy that does all the Ponderosa episodes, great guy. And he always emails me and Courtney and says, man, we need to get the Dragons back together. Let's do something. Coincidentally, the guy that produced that, he actually has a bunch of albums out himself. His name is Norwood Cheek. He's an awesome guy. And you can Google him and see what he's doing.
So it's not out of the picture, though. So there is a timeline in which the Dragons reunites, is what you're telling me.
Probably. I mean, if you have like a Legend season and a bunch of us are out there again, we'll probably reunite and do another album.
Okay. So, and I'm just going to ask you the super obvious question. You're very private, and we all find that extremely interesting. Would you play again?
That's a good question. I really, when I did that first Survivor and then I did Heroes and Villains, I had an agent. I did 2 movies. I did about 5 different pilots. I turned down 1 pilot that was an urban survival concept. And I really just turned my back on that. My agent was pissed at me. I moved up to Susanville, back up here where my symphony is. I conduct the symphony up here. And it's a really small town. I just felt like if I were to move down to LA, that it was going to suck my soul out, and I didn't want to compromise who I was on the inside. It was a really hard decision because it was pulling me that direction. After my 3rd time, I had a conversation with Jeff Probst, and I just said, as a friend, do you think I ought to ever go back again? He said, you went out here, you owned it from start to finish, you led the tribe, you coached everybody in challenges. You really couldn't have a better run than this unless you won the thing, and that's pretty difficult to do. So for a while, I made the statement that I was retired. I started having a family. That's super important to me. I can't imagine. I've got a 6-week-old baby. I got a two-year-old baby girl, 7-year-old son. I mean, leaving them would just absolutely break my heart. And I filmed a pilot a couple of months ago called In the Arena. Super cool. It's on Twitter. You should look at it. I think it's going to make it. But just being there for a week was really, really hard on me. And so, I've kind of changed my mentality. And I said for a long time I would never go back. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks ago, I had a freaking dream that I was on Survivor again. And when that happens, you know that the forces and the fates in the universe are swirling around you, pushing you back to do another season. If they do a Legend season, and they ask me to go, depending on how old my kids are, I mean, for the fans, for the people that really believe in me, I would say that I think we would do it one more time.
And that's it. You see how happy that made Elise. And Coach, I just want to say it is super exciting to talk with you. And we respect your privacy, but it's always good. And I'm so glad you took the time to talk with us today. And I have another follow-up question, and it's kind of a wonky one. And if you want to address it, that's fine. But how did you feel overall about the way you were edited and portrayed? Is it accurate to who you are? Do you have any regrets of any of your time in any of the Survivor games?
It's with life, right? I mean, when you're in the trenches, when you're in the valleys, it's horrible. And then when you get out on the other side and you look back on it, you're like, wow, I really grew in that time. And I'm a pretty authentic person. And I think the first time I went out there, it was really different because they portrayed me as somebody that was not authentic, and it was really tough. But when you step back from it and you look at the growth that happened from that, and I mean, I think I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky to have played in the first place. I'm very lucky to have been asked back, and I'm very lucky to have gone 3 times. The first time I really wanted to just be, I was at a high level. I was in the NCAA. I was a soccer coach at a university. I was at a very high level. I was, as a soccer coach, you want to always be right. You want to forge your destiny. You want to forge everybody's destiny around you. And so that was kind of my mentality out there. But above everything, I went out there the first time, and I said, I'm going to be somebody that is remembered. And I said in casting, I'm going to be one of the biggest characters that you guys have ever seen. And so I feel like I accomplished that. The second time, I just wanted people to see that I was a regular guy. I've got super emotions. I'm actually a very emotional person. My mother's very emotional, and I take after her. And so I just wanted people to see that I was a real human being. I didn't care about getting to the end. Of course, it would have been nice to do that. And I feel like I accomplished that. And then the last time, it's like, you know what, I'll show everybody that I can play the game if I want to. And I can coach people and everything. So I feel like just that whole trilogy was beautiful. And when I think about it, it's like, why would I go back again? Just because I don't really have anything to prove. And so that's something that I would toy with. But no, I'm very satisfied. I don't regret anything. It was a beautiful time. There were great highs. There were great lows. But through everything, it really gave me perspective to see myself in a mirror on national TV and just say, if that's the kind of person I am, I don't want to be that person. And the man that I was 10 years ago is not the man that I am today, and it's not the man that I want to be 10 years from now. We want to continually to progress as human beings in our character, and we should never be set in who we are. So anyway,
and so Survivor helped you grow.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think every experience has helped me grow. I don't think that, Survivor has not defined me. Survivor was not the pinnacle of my life. I've had some really great things that I've been able to accomplish. But Survivor was a great step in trying to be the man that I want to be.
Well, once again, I just want to thank you so much. And I do have one request, though. And that's every now and then you come say hi to us and other super fans, because you come up so much in conversation. And like I said, tonight's episode was based off something you said, 10 years ago, 11 years ago? So don't be a stranger. You're always welcome here. And I know the fan community would definitely love to hear from you.
Well, I appreciate it. And you reached out to me in faith, and I don't usually respond, and I responded, and that was great. I love being on here. I like it that you got a really big panel. I feel like everybody's super intelligent. I like what how everybody responded to the questions. So shoot me a text and just say, hey, we'd like to have you on, just 5-10 minutes, and maybe we'll do it next season.
Awesome.
Perfect. That sounds amazing. Elise is already super exciting. So
Token Chains was the first season I ever watched, so thank you for making it interesting to keep watching Survivor year after year.
Yep. All right.
Wait,
Awesome.
you have to ask. We forgot to ask if he has the staff still. Do you still have the dragon staff?
I do. If all my kids weren't asleep, I'd go show you in there. Of course, I have my dragon stuff, man. Of course.
All right.
Yes.
And we will bring that up next time. And like I just want to say, thank you so much for all of this. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure, and I will definitely be hitting you up very soon.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
All
Coach.
right. Have a good night.
Take care, Coach.
Have a great night.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I didn't know the best way to do that, so I literally booted him. So to all the listeners out there, I didn't know the best way to hang up. Oh, and Alex Cash has just linked to the In the Arena TV. So,
At
oh my
In
God,
the
please
Arena
talk to
TV
Coach.
on Twitter.
At In the Arena TV. All right, Billy. So I got to ask: the few times you met Coach, was that what we just saw? Was that the the real Coach? You know more about it than I do.
To be honest with you, the times that I met him were at the finale after parties. So he was bombarded and surrounded by people. It was I believe the South Pacific and the Heroes versus Villain, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he was surrounded by so many people that our words that we exchanged were so short that what are you really gonna say? And
Exactly.
then with the loudness, hey Coach, nice seeing you, nice meeting you, great job in the show. All right, later.
All right.
That was about it.
That was still super amazing. So the last thing we're gonna do in tonight's episode was we're actually gonna kind of round up, and we're gonna talk to everyone real quick. What the hell is gonna happen in this Endgame? Is Brett gonna pull a come from behind victory? The answer is no, because Hannah is. Billy, where do you see this game going? And if Jay loses immunity, is he completely gone at 6? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's got to win out to get to the end. That's but that I wouldn't put that past him though. But I do think that the final three, since I think that's what you're asking me, what's the final three going to look like?
Yes.
I think it's going to be Ken, Hannah, and David. That's what I think the final three is going to be.
All right. So
Wait,
the
there's
only,
three?
I guess, counter to that would be Ty. I want to talk to you. Do you think Adam is actually going to slide in there instead of David?
So he thinks it's going to be David, Hannah, and Ken. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I think.
It's possible. I think Hannah's going to decide it. I think Hannah's going to decide at 5 whether or not she has a chance at winning or whether or not this is the David parade. Because let's put it this way: Jay's going at 6. I think that's going to be a fairly straightforward thing. At that point, Brett's not going to take David to the end. Brett has been trying to get David out for forever, and it's basically going to be a question of whether or not Hannah wants to do it. I will say this: we didn't see much at all from David tonight. Like, we saw some, but like not a ton. We got a huge Adam episode, which would make me somewhat surprised if he's not there at the end. And I don't see a way on earth, unless there's a fire-making challenge, which is possible. That is the third option here, that we've got Ken as our third placer and Adam and David in like a fire-making thing where Hannah loses. Like, where Hannah decides, like, at Final Four to, like, I could see something like that. But long story short, I think David is the front runner, with Adam slightly behind, and the others have a chance, but it's not worth mentioning.
It's a very small
when
one.
I said my pick, I was assuming that after Jay is gone, Ken is going to win out. And with
True.
Ken winning out, and David being his best buddy, and then Hannah saying that David basically saved her butt a couple of times, and she's loyal to him, and she this time around. That was the thinking behind my pick.
Absolutely, it's completely viable. It's completely viable. I mean, let's put it this way: Adam could easily be 4th if Hannah's stupid. Hannah would be stupid if she did that. Colin, so talk to your girl.
It's impossible for her to
now,
be stupid.
But yeah.
All right, so Alex, real quickly, I want to hear from you. Yeah, your breakdown.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's a little bit weird because, like, on the one hand.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you and just say, it's not like last season where we were all pretending like Michelle obviously wasn't going to fucking win. This is legitimately up in the air. Whereas last season it was like Michelle could win and maybe Ty has a, like this is
No,
an
Aubrey,
actual,
not Ty.
No, Michelle was going to win.
Yeah,
That was obvious to anyone who knew what was going on last season.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
real quick,
I was
Billy, I
just
don't know
too
if you know
much-
this.
I was just too much of a true believer to, see the edit for what it was. But, yeah, so...
Well, then Billy just made a really good point.
Like,
that
what I will
Adam's
say
story,
about... What?
Alex, but I was going to say Billy made a really good point that Adam's story would obviously dominate a final jury. And real quick, Billy, I don't know if you know this, a lot of people got mad at Ty for correctly predicting the Michelle win. It was really weird.
I'd be mad at him.
Sorry,
Alex.
it was funny. Like
Go ahead.
I got seven or eight really good internet comments about Ty. Anyways, go ahead, Alex. Yeah.
Wait, did you?
Yeah, so I think Hannah and Ken are locks for the end because I've seen enough evidence both in the show and in post-game interviews to suggest that everybody thinks that those are the two people that can't win. And I also think that, I think that, Jay will manage to pull out one more win and Brett will be the uneventful 6th place boot, and then Jay will go at 5. And as far as which one gets first and which one gets fourth out of Adam versus David, because the thing is, on the one hand, David is the bigger threat to win, but on the other hand, everybody keeps saying he's the bigger threat to win. And it reminds me of Philippines, where, on the one hand, Malcolm was obviously the threat to win, but more people were talking about him than he was talking about his own game. And I feel like Adam has done more of the talking lately, so I actually think that he has a little bit of an edge.
Okay. All right, so it is getting late, so Elise, I am going to give you a little bit less time. I'm going to give you a minute to outline your end of the game.
My end of the game? I think...
Yeah, all right, the end.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance that Adam makes it to the end right now. From today's episode, it looks like it could easily be an Adam, Hannah, Ken final 3. But like Colin said, it's really up in the air. I could easily see David making it. I don't think Brett makes it. I think he's one of the few where I don't feel like he will. Jay's probably not making it. He's probably going to come up just short. But who knows? We'll find out next week. It makes it more interesting to watch. I was, like Coach said, I was worried at the beginning of the season that it was going to be kind of boring or meh, but I think it's really kept us on our toes, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Exactly. And I mean, the edit it's super exciting. Steven, real quick, 45 seconds, how is this game going to end?
I think Brett and Jay are going at 6 and 5, whichever order. Jay if he doesn't win immunity, Brett if he does. Whichever of Adam and David, I could see it being a fire making it 4 between Adam and David, with Adam and Hannah on one side, David and Ken on the other. Whichever of them survives is probably the winner. Hannah certainly has a shot. She's not out of it. She just needs to give a darn good final tribal, which is possible. It's not super plausible though. And then love Ken, but he's not winning. God bless his soul. And then, yeah, whichever of Adam and David makes it to the end wins, I think.
All right. Unless Ken's legacy advantage is you win the game. Go ahead, Billy.
Yeah. I was just gonna say what. Yeah. I was just gonna ask a quick question. What if Ken gets voted out in a blindside, and Adam and David are in the final 3 with Hannah?
Oh.
Wouldn't Adam and David cancel each other out, giving Hannah a
that's
road
possible.
to win?
Stop writing fan fiction for Colin. All right, he can't stand up now. He literally cannot stand right now because he is standing at attention at the.
Anyways,
don't do that to the man. Don't do
The
that.
thing about that level of fan fiction is that would be absurd, and it would fit perfectly with this season and with what has been a crazy ass year in 2016. So who knows? And that's the thing, listeners. You listen for Coach. Now you're listening to us talk. We don't know what's going to happen. We can speculate, and I hope that we've given you some good ideas, and I hope you really enjoyed Coach. And I want to thank Steven for joining us. I want to thank Elise for joining us. I want to thank Alex for joining us. I want to thank Prince Ty for joining us. I want to thank the amazing Billy Garcia for joining us, and, of course, the wonderful Coach. Hopefully we'll have him back on again. All right, everybody, have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.